A quiet family named the Wiltons thought they were starting fresh when they moved into the old Harper property. But the moment they uncovered a sealed door hidden beneath the hallway floor, their new life turned into a nightmare. Behind that door was a secret room filled with personal items belonging to long-missing people. Every box, every file, pointed to one man, Dr. Lionel Bryer, a respected medical researcher who had vanished years earlier. As investigators dug deeper, they learned he never disappeared at all. He had simply stepped into a new life, one built on carefully hidden crimes. The Wilton family had searched for months before choosing the Harper property. It looked peaceful from the outside, surrounded by tall trees and long stretches of silence. The price was surprisingly low for such a large house, but they assumed it was because the building was old and needed work. They arrived with excitement, thinking they had found a quiet place far from noise and crowded neighborhoods. What they didn't know was that the house carried a long shadow of unease that the town never fully spoke about. From the first day, the family noticed how neighbors reacted when they mentioned the address. People paused for a moment before answering. Some simply said the house had been empty for a long time. Others suggested renovation might be difficult because previous owners never stayed long. The Wiltons ignored these hints, believing they were just stories passed around small communities. They focused on repairing the house and shaping it into something new. The structure itself felt strange. Some rooms were colder than others even when the heating worked. The floors creaked in unexpected places. At night, faint drafts slipped through the walls even though all windows were shut. The Wiltons blamed age and neglect and scheduled a full renovation to start immediately. Contractors arrived, ready to tear down old panels, replace damaged flooring, and rewire outdated systems. During the inspection phase, one of the contractors noticed something unusual in the upstairs hallway. The wooden planks in one section were newer than the surrounding floor. The color didn't match the rest of the wood, and the grain pattern was completely different, as if the area had been repaired recently. This was odd because the house had supposedly been untouched for nearly 2 decades. When the contractor tapped the section, the sound was hollow. It didn't match the solid tone of the rest of the hallway. Curious, the team removed the top layer of the wood. Beneath it, they found a thin outline carved into the floor. It formed a perfect rectangle, too precise to be accidental. The contractor ran his hand across the edges and realized it was the frame of a small door. He called the family and showed them what he had found. No one understood why a hidden door would be placed in the hallway, especially one sealed beneath a newer floor. The discovery felt out of place, and for the first time, the Wiltons sensed something unsettling. The workers continued removing wood until the full doorway was visible. A faint lock mechanism sat on one side, covered in dust. The door seemed untouched, as though no one had opened it for many years. When they tried pulling it, it wouldn't move. The lock had rusted, and the edges were tightly secured from underneath. This raised more questions than answers. Why would someone seal a door so carefully? And why had no record of it appeared in any documents about the house? The family stepped back and contacted the local authorities. They wanted everything handled properly in case the hidden space held something valuable or dangerous. When the police arrived, they examined the strange door and took control of the situation. The quiet house the Wiltons had hoped to rebuild no longer felt ordinary. The hidden doorway suggested a past far darker than anything they had imagined. The officers worked carefully to open the sealed door. The rusted lock had fused with the metal frame, and the hinges resisted every tool they tried. After several attempts, the door gave way with a slow, grinding shift, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into darkness. The air that drifted out felt stale, as if it had been trapped for years. A thin layer of dust covered each step, undisturbed and heavy, showing no footprints or signs of recent entry. The police used portable lights to guide their way as they moved downward. At the bottom of the staircase was a small, square room built with reinforced walls. The space felt unnaturally silent, absorbing sound instead of echoing it. There were no windows, vents, or signs of ventilation. Only the dim bulb hanging from the ceiling offered any sense that someone had once used this room regularly. When an officer pulled the light cord, the bulb flickered for a few seconds before glowing steadily, revealing the strange interior. Against one wall was a long row of metal shelves. Each shelf held several identical boxes, all neatly labeled with dates that stretched back over many years. The handwriting was precise and carefully spaced, almost clinical in appearance. The boxes were arranged with exact spacing, as if placed there by someone who valued order above everything else. Officers opened the boxes one by one, and each discovery brought a heavier silence to the room. Inside the boxes were personal belongings: watches with cracked glass, wallets containing faded photographs, bent eyeglasses wrapped in cloth, pieces of clothing with torn seams. Some items looked old, almost fragile, while others appeared more recent. Nothing inside the boxes seemed random. Everything had a specific place, as though the owner had created a catalog of someone else's life. The officers recognized several names from old missing person reports that had never been solved. It became clear this was no simple storage space. This room had been designed for secrecy. In the center of the room stood a steel cabinet with a heavy lock. It was newer than the rest of the items, showing fewer signs of age. When the cabinet was opened, the contents made the purpose of the room unmistakable. Dozens of handwritten files were stacked inside, each containing notes about individuals who had disappeared over the years. The pages described daily routines, work schedules, hobbies, and specific patterns these people followed. Every movement was documented with unnerving accuracy. Investigators realized they were looking at the work of someone who had studied each victim for long periods before they were taken. The level of detail was more than obsessive. It was methodical and planned. The files revealed a disturbing intelligence behind every disappearance. As officers continued to search the room, they found no signs of forced entry or struggle. Everything suggested the space had been used with confidence and without fear of discovery. The hidden room had protected its secrets for many years, sealed in silence. Now that it had been uncovered, the officers understood they were standing in the private world of someone who had gone to extreme lengths to remain unseen. The weight of that realization settled heavily on everyone present, marking the start of a much larger investigation. Dr. Lionel Bryer had once been a familiar name in the town's medical community. He worked at the local research center, kept to himself, and rarely gave anyone a reason to question him. Colleagues described him as quiet, focused, and unusually private, but nothing more. After he vanished almost 20 years earlier, people assumed he had moved away or taken a job elsewhere. His disappearance never raised alarms because there was no sign of trouble, no debts, and no known conflicts. He simply slipped out of daily life without leaving a trace. Only now, with the discovery inside the hidden room, did investigators begin to piece together the double life he had lived. They reviewed old employment records and found that Dr. Bryer often worked odd hours, staying long after others had left. He preferred isolated projects and avoided collaborations. What seemed like harmless introversion was beginning to look like something more calculated. Each detail uncovered by investigators revealed a man who had built his life around being unnoticed. His quiet nature had shielded him from suspicion for years. A deeper look into his past revealed patterns that aligned with the files found in the secret room. During years when several people went missing, Dr. Bryer had taken unexpected time off work. He filed vague explanations, sometimes citing personal matters, travel, or research trips. None of the reasons had been verified. His colleagues never questioned him because he carried himself with calm professionalism. He didn't draw attention and never behaved in ways that hinted at anything hidden beneath the surface. Investigators dug through Old Town records and discovered that he had frequently volunteered to assist in search efforts for the missing individuals. He had walked through forests and helped organize supplies with the same steady nature he showed at work. People remembered him as helpful and reliable during these searches. It was a chilling realization that he had stood among desperate families, offering quiet support while knowing exactly what had happened to the people they were trying to find. The files in the hidden room showed how carefully he had watched his victims. Every page contained detailed notes about their habits. He recorded when they left home, how long they spent at work, what shortcuts they used, and what time their lights turned off at night. He studied their lives with patience most people reserve for scientific research. Investigators understood they were dealing with someone who approached his crimes with the same discipline he used in his medical work. The more they uncovered, the more disturbing the picture became. There were no signs of impulsive behavior. Everything he did was planned long before he acted. He blended into the community while hiding an elaborate system of surveillance and preparation. His true identity had always been split between the calm doctor everyone respected and the silent predator, who tracked the vulnerable without ever leaving clues behind. By the end of their review, investigators realized something important. Dr. Bryer had disappeared not because he wanted to escape trouble, but because he no longer needed the life he had built in that town. He had planned his disappearance with the same precision he used to monitor his victims. The hidden room was not only a record of his past crimes, but also proof that his double life had been running much longer than anyone imagined. The room had taken days to examine, and investigators believed they had uncovered everything inside it. But during a final sweep, one officer noticed a small strip of tape concealed beneath one of the lower shelves. It blended almost perfectly with the wall and was easy to miss. When the tape was removed, a slim envelope slid out, coated in a thin layer of dust. It was the only item in the room that was not labeled or organized. That alone made it stand out in a place where every detail had been carefully arranged. Inside, the envelope was a folded map of the forest that stretched behind the property. The markings on it were faint but deliberate. They formed a pattern across isolated sections of the woods, areas far from hiking trails and rarely visited by anyone. Each mark had a date next to it, some reaching back nearly 20 years. These dates aligned with several missing person cases from different counties. Investigators realized the hidden room was only one part of a larger puzzle. Whatever had happened to the victims had extended far beyond the house. A search team was sent out immediately. They followed the first set of markings and soon discovered a small metal container buried just below the surface. Inside were items that matched reports from older cases: a keychain, a necklace, and a torn piece of fabric. As the team moved through the remaining locations, they uncovered more containers, each with a similar collection of personal objects. These discoveries confirmed that the map represented a timeline of Dr. Bryer's activities. The forest had been used as an extension of his hidden world, a place where he stored evidence of the people he tracked. But one container differed from the rest. It was newer, the metal was cleaner, and the soil around it had been disturbed more recently. Inside was a medical ID tag with Dr. Bryer's name scratched across it, as if he had tried to remove his identity but failed to erase it completely. Beside the tag lay an old silver key. There were no notes, no markings, and no indication of what the key belonged to. It felt intentional, almost like a message left behind. Investigators traced the serial number on the ID tag and learned it was linked to a storage unit registered under an address that no longer existed. The unit sat on the far edge of town, hidden between abandoned warehouses and empty lots. When officers arrived, They found the padlock secured tightly, but showing signs of recent use. The silver key fit perfectly. Inside the storage unit was a large freezer, powered by a portable generator that continued to run. The freezer was sealed shut with heavy straps, and a layer of frost coated its edges. When investigators opened it, they found items far more disturbing than anything recovered from the secret room or the forest. It held organized layers of evidence that confirmed Dr. Bryer had not ended his crimes when he disappeared. He had continued them under a different identity, staying active long after the town believed he was gone. What struck investigators most was the timing. The freezer's generator had fresh fuel, and the floor showed footprints leading away from the unit. Whoever had been there had left recently. The discoveries in the woods had not exposed a closed chapter. They had opened one that proved the doctor was still alive, still watching, and still several steps. The discoveries from the forest and the storage unit changed the entire direction of the investigation. What had started as the uncovering of an old hidden room had become a live search for a man who had learned to disappear more effectively than anyone expected. Investigators moved quickly, tracing every possible lead connected to the fake identity used to rent the storage unit. The paperwork was clean and carefully built, showing a level of preparation that suggested Dr. Bryer had spent years creating alternate identities, long before he vanished from town. None of the information pointed to a current address, and every trail led to dead ends. It seemed he had arranged his life so that he could vanish again without leaving a path behind. Authorities turned their attention to the abandoned building linked to the freezer rental. The structure had been empty for years, with most windows boarded up and sections of the roof sagging from neglect. Inside, the walls were lined with dust, and old furniture lay scattered across the floors. Still, something felt off. The dust near the back exit had been disturbed, forming a clear outline of recent movement. Footprints led toward a rear alley, where investigators found tire marks that suggested someone had driven away only hours before they arrived. This made it clear that the investigation had come dangerously close to catching up with him. News of the discoveries spread through the community faster than anyone anticipated. Families who had once lived with uncertainty now had proof that their loved ones had not simply disappeared without explanation. They finally knew who had been responsible, even though the man behind the crimes was still out of reach. Vigils and gatherings formed across the region as people tried to process the truth. The unease that had surrounded the Harper property for years made sense now. The house had never been haunted by ghosts. It had been hiding the work of a man who operated with quiet confidence in the shadows. Investigators continued searching for more evidence that could reveal where Dr. Bryer had gone. They examined surveillance footage from nearby towns, fuel station records, old rental agreements, and anything else that might show movement. Every now and then, a faint lead appeared a possible sighting, a transaction under a suspicious name, or a vehicle similar to the one described in old reports. But each time officers followed the clue, it dissolved into nothing. Dr. Bryer had mastered the ability to slip away before being cornered. His understanding of patterns, routines, and human behavior made him difficult to predict. What frightened investigators most was the possibility that he had begun watching new people, just as he had done before. The files found in the hidden room showed he never acted without months of preparation. If he was still following that pattern, he might already be studying new victims under another identity. The thought weighed heavily on everyone involved in the case. The house where the secret room was found eventually became an official crime scene site. Researchers and forensic teams continued to analyze every inch of it, hoping to uncover something that could finally reveal the doctor's current location. The Wilton family moved out, unable to stay after learning what had been hidden beneath their home. The story of the hidden room became one of the most disturbing cases in the region's history. It served as a reminder that the truth can stay buried for years, waiting for the right moment to surface. Although the investigation provided answers long overdue, it also left behind a chilling reality. The man responsible had prepared too well. He had vanished into the world again, leaving only silence, a trail of unanswered questions and the fear that he might return anywhere at any time. Without warning, the hidden room exposed a truth that had stayed buried for years, revealing how a quiet house and a respected doctor concealed a trail of carefully planned disappearances. Even after investigators uncovered the evidence, the real danger remained at large, leaving the community with answers but no closure. The story stands as a reminder that some secrets are built to stay hidden until the moment they force their way into the light. If you want more stories like this, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new documentary.